Hey everyone, and welcome to CSCI 211. My name's Corey Nance, and I'll be your instructor this semester. I wanted to create this video so that I could introduce myself, as well as make you familiar with the course and how it's laid out here in Moodle. So, getting started with a brief introduction here, I have a master's degree in computer science from Georgia Southern University. Also, am currently working on a doctorate in cybersecurity at Dakota State University. I've been teaching here in the Department of Computing Sciences at CCU for about 4 years. And prior to that, I worked as a systems administrator, database analyst, and did a little bit of software development. So I want to get started by looking over the course syllabus. So in here you can find a lot of basic information that you may have questions for. On this first page is good details about contact information and what's required for the course. So this is CSCI 211. We're in the spring 2 term here. There are no prerequisites. You can see my email and office phone are great ways to communicate with me. Additionally, I also utilize Slack. So Slack is like a sort of like a AOL chat room or IRC if you're familiar with that. It's a way that you can get on and interact with other people in the class as well as myself. So on my specific Slack here, I've set up a channel which is like a chat room for our class that if you sign up, you can get in there and join that. And it's a great place to have discussion or look for help, any of that kind of stuff. So I'd highly encourage you to sign up for that if you're interested. My office location is in the AOC2 building, room 237. My office hours this semester are 9:30 to noon on Tuesday and Thursday, and 10 to 1 on Wednesday. Outside of that, I'm also available by appointment, so if any of those times don't work out, just let me know and we can set something up. The textbook for the course that is required is Linux Essentials 2nd edition. The bookstore should have plenty of used copies. If not, Amazon is another great place to go and grab a used copy of the book. It's not too terribly expensive, so should be pretty easy to find. We do have technology requirements for the course. They will be a little bit different this semester. So what it says here is that the following is required: that you have a multi-core CPU with virtualization extensions, 4 gigabytes of RAM, and 60 gigabytes of free hard drive space. That's not necessarily required this semester, though. So in the past, well, let me back up. In this course, we run 2 virtual machines. So virtual machines are computers that run inside your computer, so to speak. So we're going to run 2 VMs, and in the past, your computer had to be beefy enough to handle that. Well, so this semester we're going to be beta testing with this class the new Computing Sciences Virtualization Lab. So I have information and documentation on that here in the first week, and we'll briefly talk about that here in a minute. But basically that's going to allow you to run your 2 VMs on servers here at CCU, and you can access them through your web browser. That's going to give you the ability to access your VMs from any laptop, or even perhaps a Chromebook, or maybe even an iPad. I haven't tried that sort of functionality to see how well it works, but conceivably it is possible. All right, so our final exam is going to be due on May 3rd as an online class. It'll just be out there as an exam that you can take, and May 3rd will be the last day that you can submit it. So what are we doing in this course? When I think of 211, there's 3 big topics that we're trying to cover. There's computer hardware, there's virtualization, and then there's also the fundamentals of computer operating systems. So we're going to start here in week 1 and hit virtualization, and we're obviously going to be using that throughout the whole semester as we run those VMs. And we're also going to talk about here in the first 2 weeks computer hardware, just so that we can all be familiar with the basic components, what they are, what they do, etc. And then the rest of the semester, what we're going to be working on are the fundamentals of the computer operating system. Specifically, and you could probably guess this from the textbook, the Linux operating system, or Ubuntu and Fedora specifically. Alright, I won't go through and read all of this. I hope you guys come back and just read through the syllabus in its entirety. Um, Grading, so our grading is broken down into categories. They're weighted categories, so you can see the percentage of each one. So we have discussions. We're not really going to have a ton of discussions. We have one planned, and we may have one more towards the end. Exercises, quizzes. So we'll have a quiz and an exercise for each chapter that we cover. And then we'll also have a midterm and a final exam. Grading scale is standard for the university, so it's your regular 10-point grading scale, 90 to 100, 80 to 89, and so on. I do award B pluses, C pluses, and D pluses if you're in the upper bounds of those ranges. So our instructional activities, they're going to consist of readings and lectures. So there's going to be lecture videos each week that you watch, and then also readings that accompany those lecture videos. That's pretty much the chapter or the corresponding chapter to the module that we're working on in Moodle. It is important to note I don't accept any late work, so please make sure that you're starting your work early so that if you run into any problems, you can come in and get help from me or in our tutoring lab. Unless stated otherwise, all assignments are due by 11:59 p.m. of the Moodle server time. I'm pretty sure I have all the due dates populated into the Moodle calendar, so we'll take a look at that here in a minute as well. Some other important things to note would be attendance. So for a distance learning course, an absence is defined as a missed online submission deadline, like a quiz, assignment, or discussion post. It's really important that here in the first week that you complete the assignments, most definitely at least one, because if you don't complete any, then I have to report you to the registrar as non-attending, and they subsequently drop you from the course. All right. Academic integrity. So all of the work in this class is expected to be completed individually. So we won't be doing any group work unless it's stated otherwise. And any offense of plagiarism or cheating will result in a grade of FX in the course. All right, so please don't cheat. Everybody just do your own work. Disability accommodation. So if you have a documented disability, please get into our Office of Accessibility and Disability Services and get that documented with them. They'll give you a form that you can get to me, and at that point I can start making accommodations. The last part of the syllabus here is just some links that may be useful to you. If you've never taken a distance learning course before, you may want to check out this first one for the support services. Some other notable links here would be like tech support from student computing services or their help desk number, the registrar, dean of students, etc. All right, so let's jump back, and the next thing I want to look at is this tentative schedule. So this is how I envision the semester going. We're starting off right here in the first week. Each week we're going to have a topic that we cover. Those topics come from the chapters, so we're either going to cover one or two chapters each week. And then we'll have major assignments that are due at the end of the week on the Friday for that week. So this first week we're going to have a lecture video on the SI and IEC prefixes. We're also going to talk a little bit about hardware and virtualization and go ahead and get our VM set up. So as far as the major assignments, we're going to have a quiz for the SI prefixes. We'll have one for the IEC prefixes. We'll have a discussion where we just introduce ourselves to the class, and then we'll have a lab where we just verify that we got those VMs set up. Okay, so the next week we'll move into Chapter 5. Chapter 5 talks a little bit more about hardware, so we'll continue covering that. And we'll have a quiz and an exercise from Chapter 5, as well as a PC build lab to sort of hit home some of the concepts that we've been learning about computer hardware. You'll notice that most of the weeks we do cover 2 chapters. The chapters aren't too terribly long in this book, but each of these chapters is going to have a quiz and an exercise associated with them. So on week 3, we're actually going to have 2 quizzes and 2 exercises. All right, so also have some important dates down here at the bottom. The last day to drop without an academic record, so no grade or mark that shows up on your transcript is going to be 3/16. After that date, if you decide to drop, and if it's before or on 4/9, you'll be able to withdraw with a grade of W. A W does not factor into your GPA, so it does not hurt your GPA on your transcript. All it does is just show that there was a record that you had signed up for the course and then later on withdrew out of it. After that date, if you try to withdraw, you receive a WF, which as far as GPAs are concerned is factored the same as an F, so it may be advantageous to just stay in the course at that point and see how well you do. The last important date here is that May 3rd, the final exam due date. Alright, so additionally, I have a link to Slack right here at the top. We talked about that in the syllabus. If you don't want to use Slack, you may want to take advantage of this Q&A forum. If you have a question, I've found that lots of times other students have the same question, so it can be beneficial to use a forum for course-related questions. So if you have one, feel free to pop in there and post it. I'll be sure to get a reply out within a day, so 24 hours. And the news forum, I utilize this every week. I send out announcements to the class, usually hey, here's what we're working on this week, here's what's going to be due. Let me know if you have any questions. So that's about the extent of that. The tutor schedule. So we have a tutoring lab in the AOC2 building that you can visit. We have a couple tutors that can help with the 211 content. So if you click on this, it's a Word document that contains who the tutors are as well as what times they'll be in the tutoring lab. The tutoring lab is located in AOC2 room 215, so on the same floor as the Department of Computing Sciences. And then the last link here is just a getting set up and how-to document for that CS virtualization lab that I was talking about. All right, just want to show you week 1. Week 1's a little bit different than other weeks because we're not necessarily going over a particular chapter. Here what we're doing is we're doing the SI and IEC prefix lecture. We have a brief lecture on computer hardware, one on virtualization. And then I just want to point out that, again, this semester you have the option of using that CS virtualization lab, or if you'd rather, you can still run the VMs yourself on your own hardware. So I've provided a couple videos here showing you how to do it on your own hardware using VirtualBox. So there's a setup video, and then there's installing the guest editions, which is what allows you to do neat things like full screen and copy and paste between your operating system and the VM itself. And then this right here is just a brief video going over how to get set up with the virtualization lab and walking through how to create and delete and use the different VMs. Each week, the layout's going to look very familiar, so we'll have module learning outcomes at the top. That's what I intend to cover that week. We'll have a watch section, which obviously contains lecture videos. We'll have a read section that just contains usually the slides from the lecture videos, but in this case we also have the virtualization lab document here, which is talked about here in the virtualization lab video, and it just walks through how to get started and a little how-to on some of the stuff with the virtualization lab. Lastly, there'll be a complete section, and that's where you'll find the stuff that's due for that particular module. So again, we have the SI and IEC, prefix labs, we have class introductions, and then a virtual machine setup lab. Let me point out, well, before we look at the calendar, let's look at next week. So next week's a little bit more typical of a module here. We'll have a watch where we have a couple videos, read where we read over the chapter, and again, these are just the slides from these videos, and then the complete section where we'll have a quiz and exercise from the chapter, as well as the PC build lab here in week 2. Alright, the last thing I want to show you is the Moodle calendar. So if you click on this, you can see that all of our assignments are due on Friday, with the exception of our final exam, which is actually due on a Thursday, so the 3rd of May. If you want, you can export this calendar or download an iCal that you can import either into your phone or your own calendar application on your computer that can help you keep up with the due dates. And with that said, that's all I got for this video. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. If not, talk to you guys in the next video. Thank you.